you playing today because I'm going to have a guest. My first guest is coming on the show. His name is Guy LiMato. You guys could go check out my Instagram. I met up with Guy about 6 weeks ago at my nephew's wedding. There's a picture of us. You'll see, man. We go way back. I'm gonna bring him on now. He's a retired police officer. He also spent 10 years. Here he is. All right, there you go. Hey guys, hey everybody, say hello to Guy LiMato, retired police officer. All right. Sorry, I had a little reverb. There
How you doing, everybody? Can you hear me, Rich?
Yep, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do. I see you, and I see the police uniform in the background. Love it. All right,
my shrine, my little shrine.
Your little shrine. All right, guys, you want to just slide a little more towards that police uniform, Guy? Can you slide a little over towards that? Like a little. Yep. That's yeah. That way you're center frame. Yep. There you go. You're right in the center. Perfect. All right, guys.
Okay, cool.
All right. Let me give you a little background of Guy LiMato. He is a retired police officer. He spent also 10 years in the world of education. We'll get to that a little bit. He spent 6 years as a special ed teacher's assistant. Love special ed. With 6 years with autistic children, 2 years with behavioral issue children. Wow, that's always a challenge. And another 2 years with the deaf and hard of hearing. Currently works as a concealed carry firearms instructor. And just because I want to add a little fun to this, I'm going to read you something. You Guy's also famous. He was written about in Chapter 17 from the Jersey Shore of my memoir. Let me read you this and I'll give you a little background. All right, so here we go. It says, now imagine a tiny 2-bedroom cottage situated 1 block from the boardwalk in the heart of Seaside Heights with my brother and me and the following 8 guys.
Wait a minute. This isn't the phone booth thing, is it?
Yeah, this is the phone booth. Listen to this.
It's the phone booth?
Yeah, 17, 18, 19. Okay, this is the crew that I hung around with when I was a kid. Rocky DeBronzo, Guy LiMato, Joe Senzi, Petey Capone, Tommy Capone, Joey Capone, Bobby Capasso, and Stevie White, a.k.a. White Owl. I think he was half Italian, right?
Yeah, and hey, everybody. I don't know who's watching, but hello, everybody.
Yeah, hello to Guy LiMato. But hey, this is our motley crew of 10. We were crashing in a house that slept 4 people, remember? Let's just say you did whatever you could to find a gal to sleep with every single night so you didn't have to sleep in the house, remember? More importantly, except for Guy, we called him the man with the phone booth tan because he was always talking. He was down the street. There was a phone booth on. So half his body got tan because he was talking on the phone booth to his girlfriend all the time. You remember that? That was awesome. Not only that, okay, I remember the time. We broke up a fight. Guy comes in, Rocky DeBronzo and Guy get in a fight. It takes 4 of us to break up the fight. So you becoming a police officer was destiny. What do you think? Huh? I think so.
It's a shame because we were tight, and I love him, and I always will love him. You know what I mean? That was many, many years ago. I've seen him since.
Oh yeah.
But we'll go back to that. It's just kids being Seaside. Kids. But that Seaside house was funny with that phone booth fan. Remember when we went out to the club and they told me I had to have shoes and I had to borrow up. The big dude let me borrow his shoes. They were about that big. I put them on, and then we ended up going there. We didn't need shoes anyway.
We didn't need shoes though. We go way back. We met in the 70s, right? You and I. We met back. Went to high school. He played football for my high school team. I played baseball, but we go way back. Guy and my brother, same age, right? 1 year older.
Yep.
So this is history, right? This history. But let's talk about this because I did a little research, Guy, and I want to ask some questions here. Because this show, guys, all we're gonna do is talk about anything to do with armed forces, police officer, etc. But it's called Data USA was the website. It says there's 856,000 full-time law enforcement officers in the U.S. Said 85% of them are men, 15% women. So the average age is 40. The average pay is $83,000 a year. Says guys make a little bit more. They make $85,000. Women make $72,000. And demographics say 39% white, 18% Hispanic, And it also says that 33% of officers have a bachelor's degree and 17% have an associate. So 50% of the people, I guess, went to college or did some college. So, in your experience, I mean, tell us a little bit about your background with the police force. It was New Jersey, right? You were New Jersey. Let's hear.
Yep.
So how did you
started
get
off
involved?
and
Yeah.
I had I had some hurdles I had to jump, because of some things. I had some hurdles I had to jump, to get through just the name. But so I was 22 years old, 22, 23 years old.
Okay.
I took the test. Back then, it was either, guys had military, guys had GEDs, guys graduated high school, was no problem. But I believe when I went on, I had to have 60 credits. So you needed an associate's degree to get in. That's what it was. And then as time went on, they wanted you to have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
That was about 84
what year was that?
when I got in.
84. So you got in 84.
September 4th, 1984.
1984. Okay, good. I was in college, right? I graduated 85. Got it. So when you got in, all right, most of the guys.
And that's when your brother and Senzi came over to my house when I got accepted to the academy. They bought me a case of the cheapest beer I ever. It was called Steg Light, and they were congratulating me and everything like that. It was just fun. So you needed an associate's to get in back then, and then they increased it to a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And that kind of went back and forth for a while. So I'm not really sure. I think it's agency to agency now what you actually need. I'm not really sure here. What their history has been in North Carolina, because I've been here since 2014. I had a little run-in with Hurricane Sandy back in 12 at the Jersey Shore.
Okay.
Moved out here. And, but yeah, that's the education kind of goes, back and forth. Like I said, sometimes it's a 2-year, sometimes it's a 4-year.
All right. So is this something that, how did you choose it? Like, is this something you were a child, maybe you thought, or is it something that, why did you become a police officer? You don't have to
what it was? I didn't want the other option.
Got it.
You and I know what the other option was.
Yeah,
my father had a little luncheonette.
Way. We come from a little background, we come from a world where it's the paisanos, the Italians, right? So it's I got you. You're saying you wanted to stay out of trouble and go the other way. Well,
it is. It just, it looks nice from the outside, but it's grueling from the inside.
Right.
And I was a young boy, and I was dealing with all that at 19 years old.
Right.
And collecting rent, running a store, and everything else. And the future just wasn't there for me. I didn't want it. Right. But in the back of my mind, one of our high school friends had mentioned it, that he wanted to be a cop. And I said, something, maybe I should. But initially I was going to go into the Army or the Navy. We had a recruiting office a couple doors down from our hoagie shop.
Okay.
And Big John went over there and lay down the law and said, stay away from my kid. So, that was
dad.
He went right over and said, just keep away from my kid. So anyway, when things kind of settled down on the home front, and I had, been working 7 in the morning at 9 at night sometimes, and it's just rough. You bring that stuff home with you. Right. I said, I have to get out of this, and I want to find something where there's an end, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I wanted something with a pension and medical benefits. Mm-hmm. So I jumped ship and got hired with the police department. And that alone, as bad as I wanted it, it was grueling, because you had, one thing on this shoulder, one thing on the other. Like this was, the life I knew, and this is the life I had to live. And I struggled with that my entire career, but I did it. And at the end of the day, here I am. I have a pension for life, medical for life. But that's really what did it. I just wanted to get out. I needed something, something set, just something where I could say, okay, in this year I can retire.
Right. And get out of the grind. His father ran a hoagie shop in our neighborhood, and that's what he was referring to, the nonstop. Well, let me tell you, this is what I found. It says these are the top 5 most stressful jobs in America. Number 1, police officers. Number 2, firefighters. Number 3, airline pilots. Number 4, wedding planner. And number 5, military personnel. So he didn't become a wedding You didn't become a wedding planner, but you chose the most stressful job. So what would you say is the most stressful part? Being a police officer is number 1. What do you think is the most stressful part of the job of being a police officer? What would you say it is?
Well, especially today now, these kids today, they got cameras on them. There's cameras in the car. There's cameras out of the car. You have a camera on you.
Right.
That in itself, I think, sets, a lot of pressure. You're no matter what you say, no matter what you do, somebody can sit in a nice, comfortable atmosphere with a cup of coffee and look at that videotape of what you said or did, and they can pick you apart. So that's stressful right there. You're always watching what you're saying and what you're doing. What will this look like? What will this sound like? Cameras came to the tail end of my career. We had them in the car, and you wore like a little pager. Remember the pagers back in the day?
Right.
Today they have them on them, and I don't even recognize cops anymore. They put this big armored suit on. They look like robot from Lost in Space. I mean, they got this big thing. Everything's on them. You got something over here, something over there. So anyway, I think that's part of it. Internal stress. There's a lot of internal stress. There's a lot of who's who. Rank wise.
Okay.
Who's a sergeant? Who's a lieutenant? Who's a captain? Who's it? There's a lot of that goes. A lot of stress there.
Okay.
Then there's a lot of things like me. I didn't want to sit still. I didn't want to answer alarms for 25 years. I didn't want to take accident reports for 25. I wanted to get involved with stuff. So I hit the motorcycle. I did. It was in the school programs. I did school, which I enjoyed. And there's like a lot of that. Because there's a lot of competition. People want your job, and you want to get stuff, but the people out there where I worked, at least, it was a nice community. It was a very, very nice community. It was so often you'd run into something. But I don't know. I can't say. I tell you what, if I had to do it over again, I think I would have been a paid fireman. Those guys, the camaraderie, camaraderie second to nothing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. They make good money. I mean, they work a 3 on, 1 off or something like that. I mean, they're heroes. And like I said, looking back, if I had to do something else, I might have taken that. Yeah. I might have taken that road.
Yeah, no, that's actually we just had a family friend who passed away who was a chief in Trenton, New Jersey, the fire chief. Yeah, that was, well, anyway, one of my father's, Bobby Coletti. Remember Bobby? I don't know if you knew Bobby Coletti, but anyway, he was back in the day. But anyway, so what would you say? I know, like, I'm thinking about like domestic violence. I mean, I would think that's got to be a brutal situation to walk into as a police officer.
It is. And the thing about domestic violence, and when I teach my concealed carry class, I say this all the time. Before you see something out in the parking lot and you see 2 people going at it, just hop in the car, hit 911, give a description of yourself, give a description of them, and stay out of it. Because no matter what's going on between those 2, somebody will turn against you. I've been in situations where I went into a house, and I'm telling you, there were stab marks all over the wall. And there was like the Friday the 13th knife was like on the countertop. And there was a guy, nobody spoke English. They 2 of them didn't speak. And he was like laying on a mattress on the floor over there. And I said, "Did you do this?" And he goes, "Yeah." I says, "Well, come over here." So I take my cuffs out to go to cuff him. He goes, no. And he starts charging me. So he and I get into this fight, right? I'm trying to arrest him. Who jumps on my back? Her. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, you get that too sometimes. Like, like they change their mind. Yeah. And in many cases, they'll come into court after you've done this much paperwork. Hey, she changed her mind. She doesn't want to pursue charges. Wow. Now they have what they call victimless crimes. Whether you want to or not, the police officer can go ahead and move forward with this and say, "No, this is what I saw." And they can move forward with the case. And thank God for the men and women now who have that, option. But domestics are pretty hairy.
I would think so. What would you say the most impossible part of the job? Like what's like the most challenging part to being a police officer? Is it the mental aspect of it? Is it like the physical? I mean, you handled the physical. You're big, strong dude.
Yeah, it's certainly not the physical. I've always, even at this age, I mean, I still work out 5 like you. I mean, I'm not as agile. I mean, but I still train 5 days a week. Right. The physical part for me was always easy and it was always fun. And I think it was more of the mental part of it. I mean, you just see a lot of guys fizz out around 20 years. And I always say you could get a job like NYPD or you can get a job like Yardville, New Jersey, even though that's a part of Hamilton. But you can, no matter what, no matter where you are, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think it's a 20-year job no matter what. There's something about that job that burns you out.
20 years, yeah.
Whether it's like in our case, we had dispatchers that we would have a dispatcher, that would, God, every time they hit the mic, you were just afraid what was coming out of it. And your blood pressure would go up. And and your blood pressure would go up. And then like she would say, "Oh, you got a cone that blew in the dry, or a garbage can that blew in the road." It's like, and it's just that up and down, up and down, up and down. And then there are times that you'll get like a serious call you'll go to, whether it's an accident and you help out, or you'll do something where there's a simple alarm that goes off every Saturday morning.
Right.
So I think the emotions go up and down, and I think it causes a burnout effect.
Right. There's a burn. Well, let me ask you, because I believe, I don't know the details. So you were in like a shootout, like once or twice, right? Were you in like where you kind of like had used people shot at you?
Once I was in one in 1980, June 20th, 1986.
So somebody shooting at you.
My alarm just went off. It's reminding me that we had this thing today. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
we started.
Yeah, it was.
Tell me about that. What was that like? That must have been hairy. That somebody shoot like almost like you could have got killed, right?
It was June 20th, 1986, and it was. It pretty much involved, to make a long story short, it involved a fugitive out of Colorado who one of our officers tried to stop, and it was a slow pursuit. And it went up one of the major highways, which is Route 18, and he went off. And the dispatcher had gotten some information. The dispatcher did an awesome job. He ended up being a police officer, and good guy, good cop. His dad was a captain with our department. And anyway, one thing led to another. We stopped him. He started shooting, and we fired back. And that's how that ended up. But that really made the job very, very real. And the interesting part about that case was, not only was he, fatally injured, the driver, there was a passenger in the car that was pulled out to safety. And once we got him back to headquarters, we found out this guy was just a hitchhiker.
Wow. No
Imagine that one. He was hitchhiking. He was on his way, I believe he was on his way to Maryland. And on the slower side, as we called it back in the day.
Right.
But he was down there. They were going to give him a job, and they were going to, house him and things like that. And I tell you what, to this day, I still remember his name. To this day, I feel so bad for that guy. Can you imagine going down there where people are going to treat you nice, find you a job, give you some, and you're hitchhiking, and this guy picks you up. You get into a chase, you get shot at, you get pulled out of the car. I do. To this day, I feel bad for him.
Wow.
To this day,
that's got to be hairy. I'm a big fan of. I've been binging a lot on this Law and Order. Law and Order back in the 90s, the TV show. So, do you? Is that like real? Where you work like hand in hand sometimes with the DA's office, and the show is really cool, but they're always sort of integrated. Is that like for real, or is that the show where there's like
probably.
There's like detectives, I guess, but there's always police officers around. Is it more detectives that work with them, or is it that you ever have personal experience with them?
There's different levels. Like we're the first responders, the guys in uniform, the guys and girls that you see outside take the report. They're the first responders.
Right.
They take the initial report, and then it gets approved by a supervisor, and it gets kicks to the detective bureau, and then they're assigned a case. So it's more or less them.
I see.
Every once in a while, if they need more information, they'll come to us. But what makes me laugh about the like some of these shows, what's the one with Tom Selleck? What's he?
Magnum PI. Oh, you mean Blue Bloods?
No.
Yeah, it's Blue.
Yeah, like
Blue yeah.
Like shows like
he's
that.
He's the chief up there in Boston. That guy with Wahlberg.
Yeah, and it's Wahlberg.
Wahlberg
makes me laugh. Like he's like, and it's just I get it. It's a good show, but it's not real. Like there's not one time in the world would I get in a shooting or come up to an accident scene and have the ambulance put the person in there, and I go make sure he gets saline. like he's working day shift, and next thing you know, later on that night he's on a stakeout, and then the following day he's doing something else. It's like it isn't like that.
It's not like that. It's not Hollywood.
It's pretty much everybody has their own thing. You have your uniform, and then you have plain clothes.
Got it. So when you show up to work, do you show up like when I go to the gym, I'm already dressed? Do you go in like street clothes and then change in the locker room? And is that like kind of how it's, or did you show up at the job wearing the suit? How's it work?
Well, everybody gets assigned a locker. We have a locker room downstairs where I was. Okay. We had a gym.
Oh, okay.
And then we had a room, what we called muster. We'd go there and we'd muster up 15 minutes before each shift. So when I didn't live too far, when I was coming up in Trenton, Hamilton, I would drive up in any kind of clothes, street clothes. especially when I was younger. If I was going to go out, I'd have clothes,
Okay.
But when I moved from East Brunswick all the way to Manahawk, and it was 70 miles in each direction, so it was 70 up and 70 back.
Wow.
And that was when did I move out there? I moved there in 2003 to 10. So about the last 7 years of my career, I drove to work in uniform. It was just easier, I mean, because I would have to leave that much earlier, that hour.
Right.
This way I was just in uniform when I came and went. But
Right.
to answer your question, we all had lockers and everything in there, so.
Got it. So you could do. All right. Let me read some other things. Now I want to talk about ICE and the National Guard. Right. First, let's do the National Guard. Right. I looked up how to join the National. My father was in the National Guard in 1957. He was in it for 6 months. It says you have to be between the age of 17 and 35. There's 430,000 civilian soldiers out there. Right. You have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. You have at least a junior in high school or have a high school diploma or GED. You have to achieve a minimum score on the ASVAB. That's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's a test. You do 135 questions on the computer or 225 on paper. And then you got to meet a medical, physical, and moral requirements. That's the National Guard. Is that something that you even considered, or like that's totally different than like police officers? Because you read a lot about that now. And now governors call upon National Guard, and then now with President Trump is able to in certain times. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I have several friends that are National Guard, and many of them went in for like their 4 years as like regular Army. And then when they got out, they spent like another 15, 20 years in the National Guard. A good friend of mine, she lives in Lacey. Geez, I don't even know what her rank is now. She's a very high rank. And she's a guidance counselor in the school, which is her, regular job. When they get called upon,
she'll go away like once a month. Is that how, or like she has to go away so much time a year? Is it part-time?
I think they go away 1 weekend a month, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Got it. Do you have a little bit of a delay? That's why
I do. There's a little bit of a delay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so my apologies if I'm talking over you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, guys, this is our, as you know, this is the first interview. So Guy is the, the guinea pig here. So yeah, there is a little bit, but no. So, yeah, folk now, nowadays, right? I mean, would you say it's as dangerous? It's not as dangerous as it would be being a police officer per se, right? National Guard.
Well, I'll tell you what, I worked with a guy on my department, and when he went away as the National Guardsman, he said there were times he was standing in places going, is this going to be my last day? Am I going to die today? Wow. So I guess they get put in different situations. Okay. I know during quiet time, let's say, or downtime, maybe once a month they go away for training, what have you. But some of the folks, if not all of them at this point, I know have gone away and they've actually seen some activity. What's going on now over there? So each governor owns, for lack of better terms, oversees their own National Guard. Right. So Trump could come in and say, "Hey, Portland, I want, and that governor has the right to say, no. You're even though you're the president, these are my guys and girls. You can't, so." Right. Well, what he could do is federalize them and make them a part of the Army and the Air Force. And then they can come in. Now the governor can fight that, and that's what he's doing now. He went to court, and I think there's a pause on it right now. So then I believe Texas volunteered to go on over, and I think he also said, no, we don't want Texas here, and I think that's in court saying that's on pause. But let's just and it's a tough thing to prove because Trump has to prove like insurrection or something else or something like the Rodney King situation, but if it really came down to it and it really doesn't look good for America, Trump could just say, fine, you know what? I'm just sending the regular military in there and you can't say a thing about it because I'm the boss. It just doesn't look good. Right. It just, that kind of thing. So
doesn't look good. We know back from Neil Young, one of my favorite songs, Ohio, 4 dead in Ohio, when the National Guard came in on the campus and killed 4 students. That was the Vietnam. Remember that protest? So I think there's been a little bit of a
Right.
Especially for older people that were around for that, to it gets a little nervous when the president steps in to grab National Guard, because then it's a heightened situation. And, I see. All right, let's talk about this. ICE. I looked this up on federallawenforcement.org. It says, I just looked up how to become an ICE officer. Well, ICE is it's the largest agency within the Department of Homeland Security. Christy Nome, we know DHS. It was created in 2023 to coordinate and combine the investigative and enforcement division of the U.S. Customs Service and the Immigration and Naturalization Service. It said there's 20,000 employees around the world. Says they make a little bit less. They said they make anywhere from 28,000 is, I think, the lowest level, to 130,000 if you're the highest level, which requires a PhD. And it says if you have no prior experience in law enforcement or any type of coursework, you could have a 3.0 GPA in college and get into ICE. So do you know any ICE professionals, or anybody in that world?
You know what? I don't, because that came way after me.
Yeah.
I'm out 15 years now.
Oh, right.
My cousin retired from Robbinsville, and he went to Homeland Security, so I knew bits and pieces about that.
Okay.
He is probably one of the two. I know two cops that were phenomenal. He's one of the two best cops I've ever met in my life. My cousin.
Really?
Left Robbinsville. Oh my God. You could ask him anything, case law, anything on the top of his head. He was right out of Robbinsville, right over there. He was phenomenal.
Interesting.
And another guy I worked with by the name of Alex, amazing guy. Both of them bachelor degrees. Both of them actually, made it to the rank of lieutenant. They retired, I don't know, 150, maybe 150 range or something like that.
Really?
It's funny because some of these departments, like when I was there, our captains were making 170, and that was 15 years ago. I don't know what they're making now.
Right. Well, probably 250.
We're making 170. I think the director of public safety might have been making that, but it's got to be off the charts now what they're making now. I don't even know, but I think a while ago, I think they kind of pulled back a little bit and they said, "Wow, you guys are just making way too much money." And then when Christie was in New Jersey, I know he kind of attacked their medical benefits. But anyway, going back to ICE, I'm sorry to go off on that.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know anything about ICE. I tell you something though. It looks like they were just given the green light. Go and I don't know who oversees them. I don't know where they check in the morning, where they get their orders. Even when they arrest somebody, I don't even know where they take them back to book them, if they book them.
Right. What happens?
All of that, the National Guard all falls under Title 10. If you ever will look that up, but that's where it falls under Title 10. Okay. That's where Trump has the right to either send them in or can't do it because of that.
Right. So
yeah.
Let's not to get too political here, but do you think what's going on in the world? Look, there's the whole kicking people out, the criminals, and then I wanted to ask you two questions. One about that, about what do you feel as a police officer? Because hey, I don't know. I don't know if I could do the job, right? It's a very, very, well, talk about stressful, but very, very difficult job, right? But it's do you think what's going on now, is it going too far? Is it okay? What do you think? You don't have to answer, but
I probably shouldn't.
Okay.
but
don't answer.
I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Our parents, like my father, was raised by immigrant, parents.
Me too.
I have documentation on my phone. I have it here now. I have their papers from Ellis Island. I saw when they came over with their grandparents. Mm-hmm. They came over the right way. Now, from what I understand, there was no. I guess the rules were different. I guess
Ellis
or something
Island,
like that. Somebody's always going to flip flop. Everything was different.
Right.
So I actually went there and I looked up some paperwork and I got my grandfathers on both sides, their names. I will tell you this though. If you're a member of ICE or if you're a police officer and you're given an order, and here's the analogy I give everyone. All right, so the school shootings, they're getting completely out of control.
Oh, yeah.
Here's where I feel bad for cops. Here's where I feel bad. Take Florida, for example, that one sheriff. Now, or those sheriffs, they went in, I think it was Florida, and they actually went into the school, and I believe the one officer's wife was inside there, and they were given the order to stand down. Now you got to think to yourself, take the wife scenario out of it. But just to say you're just me and you and 20 other guys, we get sent to a school and there's a school shooting and somebody says, you won't go in. You're not going in. I could see the guy, he's over there. He was you're not going in. I'm telling you, you're ordered not to go. You have to stand there and you got to think to yourself, do I go in or do I catch this guy, bring him back, get fired, lose my pension, lose my medical, and lose everything? And who's going to hire me? Because I'm not obeying orders, especially something like that. I think that's a tough one for guys because I know a lot of people that tell me, hey man, I would have went right in. I don't care, job or no job. You're kind of, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. You're faced with, let me give you a little analogy. When I taught substitute taught, right? When, this was in New Jersey, I'm going to get specific what school district, but first time I taught at a middle school, right? It was the first week I went into New Jersey. This is before I wrote the book. I didn't even start writing the book. This was in January, right? It's my first day, middle school. We'll talk about, we'll switch gears with the police going into that. But so I would always walk around school. I would get there early, always, and kind of get my bearings. I always wanted to know where the bathrooms were. I wanted to know, like, if there was trouble, what I had to do, right? Now, again, my very first day teaching in New Jersey, I spent 5 years in Los Angeles. Well, all I know is I'm, doing my thing, and now kind of schools, kids are in there, and then I'm going up to my classroom. So I go up second floor, and I hear fight, fight, fight. And I see girls like a scrum, and they got the cameras, and they're going at it. And I go to I was going to jump in to break it up, and this teacher puts her arm out, and this is in my new book. She puts her up, saying, no, you can't break up a fight in this school. Can't do it. You cannot put your hands on another student. And I'm like, I was there for 5 days. There were 3 fights. I left. I said, I can't see girls beat themselves up. I can't see it. I couldn't do it. It's like, inside I was like, and I can't break up a fight. It was like, you got to run away. Now in LA, it was a little bit different. LA, because they said, how would you feel if you were the parent of the student getting pummeled? Right. So they said the teacher closest to the fight had to break it up. So at least they let you, and they had a union to kind of back you up, said, break up the fight. Whereas in New Jersey, couldn't break up a fight. That was like a tricky thing. I mean, and you worked, now let's switch gears. I mean, you worked with special ed, behavioral issues. I mean, what do you think about that? Did you ever have to break up a fight with students, and were you allowed?
Yeah. So you totally understand the situation about the officers at the school shootings when they're told stay back, you can't do anything, but your natural instinct is you want to go in there. Just like you, tough guy, you go in there, you see people fighting. The first thing you want to do is say, listen, I got this, you know what I mean? But somebody tells you can't, and now you're like, so now you're stressed, Oh. All right, so the first 2 years was south, down the Jersey Shore, and I loved it. I enjoyed it, but I was in, the behavioral classes. It was self-contained. Right. We had to walk into the bathroom. I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I meant you. Now we're switching gears, guys. We're talking about his experience as an assistant, teacher's assistant. Right. Now we're talking about behavioral, right? Not special ed. Special ed was very different. We'll talk about that in a second. But the behavioral kids, you had to walk them, you said, to the bathroom. You couldn't go in the bathroom, right? We weren't allowed in the bathroom to go in.
I never went in the bathroom, and I never went out of camera's view. Like, if there was a kid alone in the room, boy or girl, and it was I stayed right out in the hallway until he or she came out, or I went in. I wasn't putting myself in that situation.
Yeah, always.
So the first 2 years was behavioral, contained class. They had lunch alone, they had recess alone, and you had to walk them to the bathroom. They weren't bad kids. A lot of those kids I noticed, it was the common denominator I saw was that there was no father in the picture. Every single one of the kids in my class had no father.
Right.
And
major
one kid I felt terrible for because they had to write they were writing like a report or something. They were doing some sort of a project on either a vacation or something like that. And actually, this kid reached out to me a couple of years later. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. He's older now. You figure, because that was 2011. So, so that's a number of years. And he started crying. And I pulled him to the side, and he goes, my father left my mom, started a new family, and they have a new baby, and I don't get any attention. It's the new baby. But the common denominator there was just no father there. And I'm a firm believer, like I said, I think a two-family home is good. I mean, there's a lot of single moms, a lot of single dads that are doing a bang-up job. They're doing a good job. But
Right.
I think sometimes a lot of the kids take it hard or they're limited on resources and these kids raise themselves.
Mm.
Um, so it was, that was hands-on. That was a lot of hands-on.
Right.
In fact, I was assigned to ride the bus with these kids. They had to go home, so I had to hop on the bus with them.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody goes, acts different on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several times I had to call and say, look, I mean, one kid cut himself with thumbtacks.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had fights. I had other different things. And you know what I always did? I played it safe and I called the SRO. Listen, that's your job. You're school resource officer. You're assigned to this thing. You handle it. You know what I mean? Because I was just the teacher's assistant. I was making next to nothing. I mean, but you have the officer come out there, listen, you're the one, you don't have to follow the school rules. I do. And one kid I had hands on in 2013, he got arrested right outside the door. He was going after a girl, and I finally had to grab him. And then one thing led to another, and then so that was the first 2 years.
Right.
That was the first two. So after Hurricane Sandy, we had built a house down ashore. Down in Manahawkin.
Mm-hmm.
It was done in 2012. We put an addition on it. I was there in 2003. We put an addition on it. And in 2000, sorry, when was Sandy? Sandy was 12. Lost it in 2012. So I was living in hotels and rental houses.
Oh, I remember. I heard about that.
So one of the kids in the behavioral classes, I felt so bad for him. What a nice kid. Same thing. No dad, just a mom. He goes, Mr. Guy. They used to call me OG, Officer Guy. But
I like that.
As time went on, they weren't allowed to call me OG in these other schools because it originally said for original gangster. So I had to be, I went from OG to Mr. Guy,
Right.
So, and that sounds odd in itself, Mr. Guy, hey guy,
Yeah.
It's one of those names you can't really play around with much.
Right.
But yeah, they were two very interesting years.
Interesting.
So when we moved to North Carolina, I jumped here, and then I went into the school district, which brings us to the autistic kids.
Oh,
if you want to get into
special ed. Oh yeah, that was for me. Well, in LA, special ed. In the beginning, it was I taught a class with. I write about this in my book. The chapter's called Special Ed, and this new book, The Sub, where that was the best class I ever taught. I had 7 students that were all autistic, and I had 3 classes. So there were 21 autistic children in this school, different age ranges from 9 to 12. And that was it all went downhill from there. I mean, it was early in my career. It was great because they liked to learn. I would write on the board. I would make them read. And I had 2 breakthroughs, and I write about this in my book. I'll just tell you one breakthrough I had and see if you had any. It was a girl, and then there was a boy, Carlos. Again, I use different names, but this guy, Carlos, he was nonverbal, but he was the smartest kid in my class, and he would always get there early. He was very, very kind of anal, fastidious. He would set up his pencils in a row. He had his eraser, and you couldn't touch his stuff. You couldn't, it was like, leave him alone. He would just set up, and he would sit there, and he would just look, his hands crossed, and he would look down. But every single question, he knew every answer. He knew math. But he wouldn't speak. And I would squat down every day. I would squat down in front of his desk. And I'd say, Carlos, come on, you could talk to me. It's Mr. T. Come on, I know you're there, and he would, he didn't really look at me, but, sometimes I would say, come on, you could do it. I know you could do it. I know you're there because you're the smart, and I would just have this conversation. They're like, his aides would say, Mr. T, he's not going to, it's not going to work. I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like if I could just get him to speak. Okay. Flash forward. He was like 9th or 10th grade. All right. 3 years later, I'm back at that school. In LA, there's over 600 schools you can teach. So you go everywhere. So I never was back. Anyway, I go back to this school. All right. And I'm teaching, I don't know, history class, like regular general education class at this school. And I'm taking roll. And, whatever, a couple people aren't there. And there's 36 kids in a class in LA, by the way. So the last kid, I remember his name was like a Z, right? But I didn't really remember. I'm not thinking of this guy, Carlos, but I knew he was at that school. So anyway, I'm thinking, is it possible that Carlos Z is the kid? I'm like, nah, it can't be because he He was, in the class, the special ed. No kidding. 10 minutes later, guess who comes walking in the classroom? Carlos. You know what he says? Mr. T. I'm like, Carlos, you speak now? Like, unbelievable. And he said, well, sometimes. And we sat and the whole class was unbelievable because, he didn't speak a lot, but he said, I heard you. I heard you every time you talked to me. I said, I knew you did. And it was like that made like my career, I think. Him, and there was another girl, which you could read about in my book. But I had two breakthroughs that were like, oh my God, that made it all like, for him to even say that he heard me. It was awesome. Carlos.
That's
you
awesome.
Ever have one? Yeah.
It's interesting. You really have to. I was handed a book. One of the other TAs, teachers assistants or IAs, instructional assistant, handed me a book and said, "Why don't you read this? This will give you a better idea of how they think and how they see the world, and when you talk to them and how to explain it." And a lot of it is, you hope that they mime you, kind of, sort of, you what have you. I never had any violence in the autistic classes. If anything, if there were ever any outbreaks, it was mostly from frustration. Just frustrated. It was probably had to do with maybe the inability to communicate, or maybe they wanted something that we just, didn't know. But I really softened a lot when I started working in those classes where I'd feed them. I'd go to get their food. I'd clean up after them. Right. I did draw the line, though. I did draw one line. I wouldn't change a diaper. I was not changing. I hate to say that. No. I wouldn't do it. And
some kids had diapers.
I wasn't doing it. I just said, look, I'm no better than anybody else. And these are God's kids. You're the teacher on record. I just can't. No. I've tried. I did try it. I'm telling you, I was honest with them, and it got to be more funny than anything. But I would take other chores. But it was a good crew to work with. I actually had two autistic deaf kids that I was assigned to.
Interesting.
One ended up leaving the school, and the other kid I was assigned to my last 2 years. When I get into the deaf and hard of hearing class, that was my biggest goal. My biggest dream was to work with the deaf and hard of hearing, because I've got 2 additional degrees, one in sign language interpreting and one in deaf studies, in addition to my criminal justice degree. Wow. So I really, really wanted to work with them. And honestly, when I retired, my goal, before I lost my house to Sandy, my goal was to be chief of security at Katzenbach School for the Deaf, the Trenton School for the Deaf.
Yeah, it's a famous school. Yeah.
I couldn't get my foot in there. You know what I mean? It just,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was what I really wanted to do. I figured combine the two, But they're very interesting. I've learned that some of them are high functioning, socially, low level academically, and sometimes it's the opposite. They're high functioning academically and very low functioning. Right. I found that very interesting as well. The one deaf autistic kid I had my last 2 years, right? I mean, he was a sweet kid, and just the same thing. Like, can you hear? Well, he was deaf, but can you understand what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm doing? He would throw a couple little signs out. We called them home signs. Like, they were signs that he developed with his family. But I'll tell you something. Put some math problems in front of him, that.
I know.
It's just.
I know.
It's amazing.
It's like, everybody knows the movie Rain Man, but that's like a very unique situation where he was, brilliant. But now I'm telling you, this boy in my class, he was 100 on everything he did, and everybody else was like 20, 25 maybe. And you're right, there were some outbreaks that I experienced, but the good news was in that class, everybody had their own personal aide, and the aides would sit off to the side. They had couches. I don't know where you were. There were couches, but they were assigned because each child had their own aide. Like, we had one girl that was a runner. I don't know if you ever had a runner, where she was like really sweet, but she would just get up and out the door. They would chase her all around campus. The girl would just they would literally be chasing this girl, and the schools were locked down, so you couldn't really get out. But there were times where she was fast. Oh my God. And it was like really cute because they'd say, bring her back, and she'd be laughing. Like, it was fun for her to just run around. Yeah. But then we had,
part of her day.
Yeah, you're right. And then we had some kids that would just play video games in the back, and you couldn't break them away. And it's interesting. What I learned was, once you give them Well, you know the old saying: "You give an inch, they take a foot." Or once you give them a little bit of room, like this one boy, all he wanted to do is play video games. So I said, "Well, why did you let him do that in the first place?" So as soon as he come in the classroom, he'd be in the back of the room. There was a computer, and he would start playing games, and he was like really good, like all these. But you couldn't break him away. So once he sat down, it's like to get him into. Then he'd be screaming, and in the back, and you were like, "How do I get him back into the classroom?" And it was the assistant that let him. He's like, well, anyway, those are some tricky parts because he was in his own program, but you know what? He was doing fine, but he wasn't
Yeah.
learning. Yeah. But I tried to teach. I mean, I was all about. So what I did was I did this thing called the top 10. I learned from these kids and I ended up using that. My whole substitute teaching career was and I even did a video called Top 10 with Mr. B. I did like a pilot for a TV show because what I said was if we could learn 10 things about any subject, rainbows, pandas, the Revolutionary War, and I'd put them on the board. I would put 10 and I'd have each read it, and then we're going to take a quiz later. That's it. If you can remember 10 things, most people can't remember. If you can remember 10 things about the Italian Renaissance, most people know 0 things about Roman Empire, right? I mean, these big theory concepts, the students that I was teaching, 95% of them are not going to go pursue college. 98% probably never left their neighborhood, right? So that was my way. But I learned, and these kids were the best students of taught, I don't know, 30, 40,000. I taught over 600 days and I would teach. These kids were the best. They were, I mean, if I can go back in time and I only lasted 30 days because the way it works in LA is if you take on a 30-day assignment, they pay you more. But if you do it daily, they could pay less. So,
Okay.
yeah, so you get like 250 a day when you do a 30-day. But if you do day to day, it's like 185. So they just replaced me with dailies. I was like, because I built a relationship. And these kids really knew me. After 30 days, these kids know you and they would like
Yeah.
get excited to go see, Mr. T. So no, that was I had a good journey with special ed, although what I learned later as time went on, they would put the bad kids or the bad apples, I call them, the kids that just didn't do anything, never took a test. I had kids that you put a quiz, they're like, they just throw the paper up. They didn't care. So these kids they would throw them, over time, then they would be mixed in, which wasn't good because you got the trouble. You had behavioral. Well, they would mix the behavioral with the that was a real challenge because you're trying to do your work and then you got nonsense. The things, I don't know, you didn't read my book yet, but you read the
Yeah.
F bombs. And I mean, kids threw books at me, kids flips tables at me, poured water over my head. I had more things happen to me
Wow.
that you would be like, unbelievable. Talk about the disrespect, defiance and disrespect. Those are 2 things that I never received from the autistic children special ed ever. But everybody else, free game.
Sure.
Interesting, huh?
And how about the way they toss it up, the discipline with these kids that are in trouble every single day? How many times have you seen them go to the office and come back with a snack? Over and over, I'd
Office.
see them go
Yeah.
down there, and this is different schools in different states.
Oh
The
yeah.
same kid go down. Oh, if you're good today and tomorrow, you could have lunch with the assistant principal on Wednesday.
Right.
And
Oh
it's
no.
like, I'm sitting there biting my
Their
tongue, you know what I mean? Because all the
reward.
good, and God forbid you get an athlete that does something, you can't play in this game, that game, you can't suit up.
Oh no, forget it. Oh, one time, right? I kind of I guess I got my own little reputation where I would send kids to the I would just say, get out, go to the principal. I learned this. This is in my book. Okay. Mr. Washington. No, this is again true. This is early. Again, my first semester, you kind of learn all this. I had no experience, right? And you're learning classroom management's rough. I mean, that's the most challenging aspect for a teacher in these inner city markets. My experience was classroom management. So I get assigned to this school, middle school to me. I couldn't even teach. It was the most difficult. So I'll never forget the school. And I show up with the suit on, and then they look at me like, oh, who's this guy? This newbie right off the boat, right? They're like, we're going to put you with Mr. I'm like, I don't get my own class. They're like, no, not at this school. You go help out Mr. Washington, right? I go in the class. He's this ex-Marine. He's got the bald head. He looks like Yeah, movie Officer and a Gentleman. He's the he's like the badass guy who's and and he threw 3 kids out during roll call. Get out, get out, get out, because they gave him, they gave him crap. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, what do you mean? He goes, listen. He goes, here's how it works. You can't take shit from anybody. He goes, the minute you do this, nobody will respect you. This whole school, it's like within 5 seconds, they all know you're this pansy ass guy that they'll walk right over. Don't do it. He goes, you got to take a stand. He goes, what's going to happen is they're going to be cruising the hallway. Security's going to get them. They're going to bring them back. And you're going to go, nah, that kid told me to go F myself. Take them to the principal. And he goes, that's how you just nip it in the bud. So from that point on, I'm like, I took his lead. And anytime somebody, I'd say, that's it. So one day this one school, they liked me. They called me back. Again, it was a middle school. Then it's like after a week, the principal comes to me and he goes, hey, come here for a second. And because normally you never talk to the principal when you're a substitute teacher, right? You just get your assignment, you go, and you don't talk to anybody. Most of the time, you don't speak to any adults the whole day.
Right.
So he calls me in his office. He goes, hey, I know you. Do not send any students to my room. He goes, do not send anybody to the principal's. I'm like, well, where do I send them? I go, so when a kid tells me to go F myself, where do I send them? Don't send them to me. I'm like, well, where do I send them? What do I do with them? If a kid starts punching, beating up another person, what do I do? He said, don't send them to me. I'm like, I'm not coming back. That was it. And my last day. I'm like, I'm not coming. I could. Yeah, because then I would do. And then what I did, I send a kid, he brings him back. He walks him right back. Here, they just, that was rough. Because there's nowhere to go. What do you do? And
can't be bothered.
No, I can't be bothered. I'm like, so that was, let me tell you, I worked, I worked in the restaurant and bar business for another 5 years. You know me, I've done everything from Wall Street. There's not one thing I haven't done.
Yeah.
And I write about this in my book. I compare working in a restaurant or a bar to working as a substitute teacher. It's harder on the physical body if you're working in a bar, but this on the psyche, wow, this is the most challenging job I ever had psychologically versus physically. And I say, you choose. But me, although you do get, if you could help kids and you could get those breakthroughs. So this teaching has shinier moments. And I think, it's got the kind of superstar moments versus here. Yeah, if somebody says you're a great server, okay, great. But they both are the same. At the end of the day, it's like turning the light switch off. Once I go home, it's like I want to have no memory of what occurred. I got to go, let it go. But same money, same hours, 6-7 hour shift, and I say, you choose. I mean, I think I like working. The camaraderie. I don't know if you ever worked in a bar, but all right. It's rough. So you've had
St. Charles Place.
St. Charles Place back in the day.
For a stint. That's why I left. That's why I left. That's why I left being an IA. I had a full-time gig and I enjoyed it, but it was just too much. It was just, I said, eventually I'm just going to get myself jammed up. I can't, and I'm not even a teacher. I wasn't even a certified teacher.
No.
I'd report at a certain time and I'd leave at a certain time. I wasn't there doing lesson plans and reporting to a teacher and doing grades and things. I didn't have any of that, but I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I got to get out of school. I'm thinking about going back to sub. They only pay $1.35 here. I might do a day or two. Yeah. Let me tell you a funny story though.
Yeah.
Before we get into the part, right? So I was a cop and I was teaching the DARE program.
Okay.
And thank God for the IAs and the one-on-ones.
Drugs and
aren't
alcohol.
Aren't they wonderful? The one-on-ones.
Wait, say it again. DARE is
drugs are really expensive. Drugs are really the drug abuse resistance education.
I got it. Drug abuse resistance education. DARE, right?
I used to tell the kids, they were like, Officer Guy, what's it stand for? I said, it's simple. Drugs are really expensive. And then I'd break the ice that way a little bit with the kids. I'd do my little Guy LiMato shtick as best I could. It was like my stand-up routine when I was teaching the DARE program, my best audience. Right. So, like your brother always says, Maniscalco wouldn't have nothing on me if I let loose back in the day.
You missed your calling, Mats. Mats is his nickname. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. If Sammy's watching now, he's going to kill me for not bringing this up. But we still have a plan. We still might do it. So anyway, I was teaching dare, so full uniform in front of the class, and there was a a one-on-one back there, and all of a sudden I'm talking, and I'm very nice. I don't need to be tough with young kids. They're 11, 10, 11 years old, and I came up with the motorcycle. It was just a good. Actually, you know what? I came up with a motorcycle at times, but I'm lying to you. They gave me a dare car because I used to have charts. But anyway, it always looked sharp as a tack. And all of a sudden I'm talking, and I hear this, and I look, and I didn't see anything. Strike one in my mind, yeah. And I'm, on and on, and this is how the program goes. And I hear this, So finally, the third time I catch a kid, I said, let me tell you something right now. I'm going to end it right now. I'm not up here to be made a fool out of. I'm not a clown, and you could leave if you don't like what I have to say. The one-on-ones in the back going, she's like this. She calls me outside. She goes, she's got Tourette's. It's like, oh, Jesus God. So that was like a funny story. Like, you need to tell people before they come in that class,
Yeah.
Don't go near this one. You might get bit. This one might kick you. This one might talk your ear off. This one might drool on you.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm speaking in front of the class, tell me he's got Tourette's, and this one I won't, but we chuckled at it. We laughed to this day. There's I've had some laughs. I've had a lot. Yeah. Some of these kids make you laugh, though, don't they? I'll tell you, some of the things. I had a kid one time. He had his head down on the desk, and I went over there, and there was a note. I'm sleeping. Please leave me alone. Put a note just take on his arm.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I've seen it all.
We should take your book. We should take your book. We should take your book and both of our experiences and do a movie.
Oh no, I'm definitely. Yeah, no, that's on the. That's going to be however long it takes. Now, my book, I believe it's. There's no time limit on it. 10 years from now, it's still applicable because. Again, I specialized. I was in these inner city markets, and the biggest thing that I found was the curriculum. The curriculum it was just ineffective. You're talking about, I had a kid one time he was staring at a periodic chart, and like I'm looking over his shoulder, and he's just like looking like he's reading Chinese, and I'm like, listen, kid, the only thing you're gonna have to remember out of that chart is water's H2O. Is everything else iron, Fe? Who cares? Does that have any this kid's not going to be a doctor. He's not going to be a scientist, not going to be a physicist. So I said, why, he spent, a whole class talking about this chart and trying to quiz him. I'm like, this is absurd to me. That's the thing, they should, I think everything, it's not a one size fits all. And that's how I taught with the autistic children. They said, do whatever you want. And they basically, like I was told many times, do whatever you want. Like, just make sure they learn something. So every day I was like, okay, Revolutionary War was my big thing because I was a big George Washington fan. Then I would do rainbow. I'm telling you, rainbows, pandas, do zoo animals, just because it was exciting and they loved it. They learned something because learning is not the same thing as just reading it on a piece of paper, right? Even the quizzes. Now, there was a lot of, that's why I think we got that, definitely a movie. It's like Dangerous Minds. Remember back in the day with Michelle Pfeiffer? I make reference to that in my book. And no, I definitely see a modern day film on this. So I'll be working on that. I already have my actors in mind for this.
With all these stories. We got, and between all those characters, we could all do something,
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever, did you play music in your class? Did they listen to the, like over and over and over?
No, all I did was one time, and I did say this in a previous show, and then we'll wrap this up. But this is probably my line. I don't know how long I've been doing this. This is my longest show. But I taught towards the very end. I taught at an elementary school, and I was a music teacher. I'm like, I'd never been they didn't really have music. I didn't ever teach music in LA. I taught like a lot of things, but never music. So anyway, and the music, but it was like I was in the room and the students would come to me. So I didn't even know their teacher would drop them off. It was like the art teacher. They drop them off to your class. And so the teacher, I was there for like 2-3 days, and she's like, she left me, just play a movie. I'm like, a movie. So they're like, we saw that movie. The kids are like, I don't want to watch a movie. We saw that movie. So I'm like, oh, let's watch a movie. No, I said, I got an idea. So I came up with an idea. And because I wanted to teach them that if you have a music ability, or especially if you're a singer, if you have a passion for it, It doesn't really matter. Like your voice could sound like anything as long as you could sing. I can't sing, but if you could sing, your voice doesn't really matter. So I went back. I played Diana Ross. I did, Elvis, Michael Jackson, Springsteen. I would do clips off of YouTube. Oh my God, they loved it. And when I got to Taylor Swift, that the whole school was like, it was the loudest I've ever heard any kid in my life. Teachers were lined up outside, not shaking their head, going, "What's this guy do?" They loved it. So I did. The only time was that music class. I would play music, and they would all sing along. Oh, it was fun. But anyway, no, we never like just played music.
These were mainstream kids or special ed?
No, these are just general education, no special. But I think I know what you're saying, like calming music.
General ed, okay.
Yeah, I did teach at one school, I guess, for behavioral issues that, right, in the background, they would have like, the beach, like the water, splashing on but it's it's so loud, right? There's a lot of loudness and they played a lot of games. Played at one school where they just let them play video games all day. But again, as a sub, in these other classes, I guess I was more like the instructor assistant. So, but anyway, man, this is good, man. We had some fun, huh?
The reason why I was asking was,
yeah.
Oh man, it was nice. My face would probably be red because I was nervous to do this. You know what I mean? I'm thinking. I'm honored to be the first guest. I'm honored.
Yeah, he's the very first guest. Hey guys, check it out, Guy LiMato. By the way, if you want to look him up on Instagram, it's at GFL0102. So if you want to go follow Guy LiMato, check it out. One of my homies from back in the day. Mats, it's great seeing you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, it's always good to see you. And I'll tell you what, if anybody's watching this from North Carolina and wants to take my concealed carry class, if you use promo code Rich Tola, I'll give you the family and friends and police and military deal. I'll give them a discount if they use your name as the discount code.
Yeah.
The promo code.
I love it. Guys, let me repeat that. If you're in North Carolina, he teaches it. Was it twice a year you do it? Twice a year, concealed carry, firearms.
No, I own a. Yeah. I own and operate a concealed carry company now. That's what I do. I teach about 4 times a year.
Okay.
It's North Carolina concealed carry. So I'm licensed and insured, and I'm an NRA and North Carolina certified instructor. But if anybody who's in North Carolina watching this and they want their concealed carry, promo code Rich Tola, or should I do Rich Tola or Tola Talks?
Yeah, Rich Tola is fine. Use my name, Rich Tola, promo code Rich Tola. Do it. You'll get the discount, friends and family.
And I'll give them.
Whatever. Give them the discount, the concealed carry. I wish you were here in Indiana. I would take it because that's something I'm not really. I told you we talked briefly. I said, I'm not really a gun guy. I wish I was. My father was.
Yeah.
every Italian guy. What I learned about all those old times.
So I heard.
It carried a knife, a switchblade, and a gun. Was it registered? Who knows? Didn't need to be. There was always a river nearby.
What kind of guns your father have? I don't know. Everything's grinded down.
Whatever my father had doesn't exist anymore. But let's just say the serial numbers didn't exist either. No, the old time. Yeah, Mats and I go way back from the Italian, Sicilians, and that was awesome, man. Hey. Thanks again for coming on the show. Guys, look them up. North Carolina Concealed Carry. Guy LiMato at GFL0102. You can direct message him if you're interested. Go to Carolina, take the course. By the way, how long? It's 4 times a year, but how long does it last? How many days or hours?
It's a 1-day course.
Oh, 1 day.
It's 8 hours, and you get your certificate that day. It's an easy written test. You qualify that day.
Right.
You get your certificate. All you got to do is go to the sheriff. He does a background, and you're done. You get it.
Bingo. Right. And then maybe you join the National Guard. All right, man. It's good having you on the show. Thanks so much. I'm going to have you hang up so that I'll just wrap it up.
Thank you.
And let's see. Mats, see you soon, man. Thanks again.
Take care. Thank you. Take care.
You got it. Hey, guys, that was a blast. So long show today. talking all about police officers. And that's my good buddy, Guy LiMato. We grew up together back in the day. I want to give a shout out to everybody from New Jersey from those days. Again, thanks for tuning in. Tola Talks. We'll see you soon. Peace.